Hey, it's Dr. Jenn again. You ever wonder how some mixed race people can go through so much bullying and microaggressions and kind of survive it while other mixed race kids are just so negatively impacted? Well, that's what I want to talk about today using a famous example, Boris Kodjoe. Boris Kodjoe seems to be doing a lot of interviews or featured in a lot of news articles recently, talking specifically about his upbringing and how much he experienced bullying basically every single day. Boris and his brother were bullied every single day just because they were different. Now let's call it what it is. Boris and his brother were different racially. And so therefore the bullying they were getting was really racialized microaggressions, racial trauma every single day in the form of microaggressions and sometimes larger actual physical attacks. So what happens to a mixed race kid who experiences racial microaggressions every single day? So let's just imagine young Boris Kodjoe, who is living in a small town in Germany with his white German mother, who's a psychologist, and his Ghanaian father, who is a physician. Ghanaian father leaves Germany when Boris is around like 3 or 4 years old. So basically it's Boris and his brother growing up with a single mom. This is a quote from Boris Kodjoe. I was part of a true minority. It was me and my brother, basically. So it takes on a different dynamic when it's just me walking to school and being bullied and called names. I'm on the soccer field and I'm being attacked and bullied. It was part of my life every single day. Kids reaching out, grabbing your hair, rubbing your skin to see if it's real, asking if we live in trees in Africa. Just the most ignorant, dumb things based on misinformation and fear. So, he says, so you start building these walls around you. So what is Boris saying there? He was othered every single day, felt alone, and started to build walls around himself to basically survive. How else are you going to survive treatment like that every single day? You have to create some sort of protection for yourself. But here's the secret. This is not just about surviving racial trauma. So many people have done that. It is about the interpretation of what these racialized traumatic microaggressions mean. It's about helping kids understand the racial incidents that are happening around them, helping them interpret them and understand them correctly. And that is where kids need help. Without help, these mixed race kids will internalize the wrong conclusions from the racial incidents happening around them. And that is what makes the mental health impact of those incidents, of those microaggressions, have a much stronger, longer lasting, and negative impact. So we want to focus on interpretation and understanding. When no one is really there to help a mixed race kid understand the microaggressions they are experiencing perhaps on a daily basis, the impact just hits them full force. And over time, these are some of the emotional impacts that can develop. Number one, worthlessness and sadness. A mixed race kid who is experiencing basically every day being the butt of somebody's jokes, feeling looked down upon, insulted, rejected in so many ways, they really start to feel sad, they feel hurt, and if no one is there to kind of help them process that, they start to really feel like they are nothing, they are not worth sort of existing, and this is a really dangerous feeling. Worthlessness. We don't want worthlessness to grow. The second thing is loneliness and isolation. So many mixed race kids realize that if so many groups are rejecting them over and over and over, by virtue, you really are alone. So now you're spending a lot of time by yourself because you can't seem to get group access. So if you're alone, then you start to feel lonely because the message is, I don't have a group. I'm not accepted anywhere. So we see that this loneliness grows, and sometimes then this mixed race kid will choose not to seek out any more groups. They will choose to isolate themselves because it feels a little bit safer than taking another chance at being rejected and hurt again. Anger and frustration. Number three, this is a super common experience that a mixed race kid will go through when they experience lots and lots of racial microaggressions. I'm sure you can imagine this is when a kid realizes that what is being said or what is being done is wrong. They know it is wrong, but they are feeling either helpless to do anything about it. They don't know how to change it. And so they are just left with that feeling of anger and frustration of like, I should not be being treated this way. Number 4 would be insecurity. So many mixed race kids develop insecurities very young based on the mixed race microaggressions they experienced every single day. A lot of times it is going to be connected to their physical features. It could be something as specific as having very thick eyebrows. Usually they are features that are deeming this mixed race kid different or making them stand out in some sort of negatively interpreted way. So it could be things like thick eyebrows or just, I don't know, more body hair. This can feel negative, but it also can be the classic physical features like height and body shape and hair color and hair texture, eye shape. You get the idea, skin color, etc. So whatever features this kid has that their peers or their environment has deemed undesirable, ugly, unwanted, inferior, whatever it is, and this kid believes it, they develop an insecurity around it. Sometimes that insecurity can be tied specifically to that feature, and this kid will do whatever they can to change that feature. But ultimately, sometimes the conclusion can be that because I have these features, none of me is worthy, none of me is good enough, none of me is desirable. And then they carry this deep-seated insecurity about their person as a whole. And that leads us to the last experience that is really common for a mixed race kid that experiences repeated racial microaggressions over and over and over, and that is shame or self-hatred. When shame shows up, we know that this is a kid that has been experiencing a microaggression over and over and over with no one to intervene and correct the interpretation. Remember, we talked about how the kid is interpreting these moments, because this is the evidence that a kid has interpreted the conclusion to be something is wrong with me. Not these people are ignorant, they don't know what they're saying, oh, I'm just a little bit different in an environment that seems to be very homogenous. No, the conclusion is something is wrong with me. I shouldn't exist in the way that I currently exist. I have met so many, unfortunately, mixed race adults who feel they wish they could just change the way they exist. They wish they could have been born a different person, born looking differently, because they have so much shame and self-hatred around the experiences that they endured on a daily basis. And their conclusion is, if I just didn't look this way, maybe my life would have been a lot better, versus helping a child understand and become resilient to some of the racial microaggressions they experience every single day. So I know that these mental health impacts kind of sound alarming, and a lot of parents are like, gosh, my kid never tells me anything is happening. I think they go through their day, it must be fine. They haven't told me anything that they're concerned about. They haven't told me they've been bullied. They haven't told me that people say negative things to me. Believe me, a mixed race kid is experiencing racial microaggressions. Every mixed race kid is going to experience racial microaggressions related to their mixed race background. They just will. It all just depends on severity and their ability to interpret what is happening. Does it mean that every mixed race kid is going through life like Boris Kodjoe, being attacked and bullied every single day? No, of course not. Are there kids that go through that type of bullying every single day and tell their parents nothing about it? Yes. So we need to be aware that a lot of kids will experience racial microaggressions and will not say anything about it, especially to their parents. So here's the secret of how Boris Kodjoe was able to survive his daily life experiencing racialized trauma for being biracial, Black, and German in that small town in Germany. His mother played a humongous role in his daily life. His mother did not turn a blind eye to what her two sons were experiencing, and she made herself a safe place for them to process. So here's a quote from Boris Kodjoe talking about his mother. My mother did an extremely admirable job in putting a sense of pride and confidence in us. She always said to us how we were great, just the way we were. She tried to shield us. And listen to this. She explained to us how ignorance works. She tried to explain that people say these things because they're dumb and they don't know any better. She tried her best to give us a sense that we had value in a hostile environment. This is a mom that was like, I am not going to stand by and pretend I don't see what I am seeing, or I am not hearing the experiences that my kids are telling me. His mother was trying to be right there in it with them. Those are some tough conversation they must have had with their mom, right? Boris and his brother. And Boris makes it really clear it would have been super helpful to have his Ghanaian father present as well to talk about these racial incidents, to help him understand, to have some protection from his father's perspective. But he didn't have that. So his mother did her best to step in his absence. And even though you clearly hear that Boris is not saying she did like an amazing job and she solved everything, but he said she did an extremely admirable job. Like she was trying her darndest to say, I am not going to let you go out there alone. Why do I stress that? Because I see so many mixed race adults who say their parents absolutely did nothing in the face of their racial microaggressions. They had no conversations with them. Sometimes, in worst case scenario, these parents actually either joined in on some of the racial trauma or turned a blind eye when other supposedly safe family members were throwing the racial insults and the racial microaggressions at their own family member. So if this is a parent that is participating in the racially traumatizing events or is not stopping the extended family from doing so, this is a kid who gets the message very clear. I am alone. I have to figure this out on my own, and I'm gonna have to draw my own conclusions. This is a mixed race kid that was left with no place for safety, understanding, acceptance, or relief. A lot of parents choose silence because they think it's neutral. Silence is not neutral. Silence is abandonment in the eyes of a mixed race child. And it leaves a child to think, I must be the problem. Now, there are many factors to why Boris Kodjoe thrived and found resilience the way that he did. I said a big piece of this puzzle has to be his mother, because again, she created that space of safety, validation. She's giving information. She's providing a way to understand the world. But the other piece of this puzzle that Boris has been talking about is his involvement in sports. And it sounds like Boris was able to find some level of belonging and acceptance on a sports team. I don't know if that acceptance always translated to off the field, but perhaps because a sports team has to find a way to gel and their whole goal is to come together as one to, win the game, that can be a positive place for a mixed race kid to be because they become a part of that team. But Boris mentions that he used sports to process the anger and the frustration that he was going through every single day getting bullied. He had a way to channel his anger, channel his frustration, turn it into some sort of way to achieve so he could create bigger and bigger goals for himself. And this is positive. If nothing else, if this mixed race kid does not find belonging and acceptance in their school or in their environment, we want them to have another space where maybe they can. And sometimes sports or some sort of group activity, group membership is a great way to do that. So if you're a parent of a mixed race kid, what can you do to help your child deal with and process the racial microaggressions they might be experiencing because they are a mixed race kid? Number one, of course, don't wait to have these talks. Have the tough conversations early and often about difference, about identity, and about belonging. Your kid needs to talk about those topics. Be honest about what your kid is experiencing. Call it what it is. Call out the ignorance. Demonstrate how this is a uninformed or ignorant comment about skin color, hair texture, a culture or a religion that your child is connected to. Don't be afraid to be honest about the ignorance. Demonstrate safety and validation for your kid. Make sure your kid knows that even if you can't stop what's going on the schoolyard or whatever is happening during the day, that you are a safe place to come back and talk to. You are a listening ear and you are on their team, and you will fight with them in whatever ways that y'all come up with together to help them build resilience and kind of survive the next day. Find or create the affirming peer environments for your kid. Ideally, it would be lovely if you can find other groups of mixed race kids for your kid to be a part of. It's not the be all and end all. If you can, great. If you even can create that in the area where you live, wonderful. But the backup there is, like I said, finding another type of peer environment where your child can find some sort of acceptance and belonging. Could be sports, could be dance classes, it could be Girl Scouts, whatever you know of where there is a community grouping centered around something else other than just how this kid is on a daily basis. That is where you want to try to find some safety for them. The idea here is you're helping your child connect to another type of group identity that is not solely focused on their racial and mixed race background. Lastly, learn what you need to learn to help your child. Do you need to learn more about the culture? Do you need to learn more about having these conversations, tough conversations? Do you need to learn how to recognize the ignorance that your kid is experiencing every day? Figure out where your blind spots are and learn what you need to learn so that you can be there to help your kid fight back. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You just have to be willing not to turn a blind eye and to show them, hey, I am in it with you. We are going to do something about this. So, how did Boris survive those daily attacks, being bullied, insulted for his mixed race background in that small town in Germany? He had backup. He had his mom at home that was like, oh no, I am going to help you understand these racialized traumatic incidents, and I'm going to help you realize there is nothing wrong with you and everything is wrong with the information that they do or do not have. This is what helped Boris build resilience, along with the other factors, for example, like playing on a sports team, helped him build some resilience and some confidence to be able to go out into the world. So I'm just letting you know, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to have the tough conversations if you are the parent of a mixed race kid. Have you had some of these tough conversations with your mixed race kid already? Let us know how it's going in the comments. What's been difficult? What are some successes? What do you want to learn about next? Just let's talk about it. Thanks for watching.